What's up guys, Farce Knight here, and as you know we create quite a few things on this channel. We normally focus on iOS development. We've done a little bit of iOS design with Adobe XD, and of course I love creating these videos for you guys. But this time, this design of the month is in Adobe Illustrator. This is the very first design I've ever made, or anything I've ever even played with inside Adobe Illustrator, and this is what we're going to be creating in this video. Now, we're not going to go over the fine little details when it comes to creating all the boxes and all the circles within this actual screen of the computer because it gets a little bit repetitive, but we're going to create the main computer. I'm going to show you how I get that glare effect on it, and we're going to kind of just go over how to navigate through Adobe Illustrator. After all, this right here is my very first Adobe Illustrator design ever, but I like how it turned out, and I want to show you guys how I went about it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into Adobe Illustrator for this design of the month. Alright, we're going to first start, of course, by opening Adobe Illustrator and hitting New. We're going to make it 1000 by 1000, just because why not? We're going to have a square, it's going to be a computer on there, 1000 by 1000 seems appropriate. I'm going to hit Create. And here we are. First I'm going to come over here, right click and do rectangle tool. I guess you could do rounded rectangle tool too, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to make the screen, the part that flips up. And we're not going to make it exactly a square, of course. The laptop's a rectangle. And then let me just move that to the center because I'm OCD like that. Is that the center? Yeah, alright. But what I want is this to be black. Oh, it is. So you can see this is black, but I don't know. Let's make it 2 points just so we can see it. Make it a little bit easier for ourselves. We can adjust that later if we need to. For the inside of this, we're going to make it like a darker grayish color. So I'm going to double tap on this color right here. Around there seems decent. Okay. And now we have the inside, that color. So this is going to be the borders of the computer. So you'll see the borders out here in one sec. What we're just going to do to make life easier is select this, Control C, Control V, so we have the same exact thing. We're going to hold Shift and make it smaller. So holding Shift, if you don't hold Shift, it'll distort that way. If you hold Shift, it'll keep its ratio, but we're just shrinking it a bit. We're going to bring that into the middle if we can grab it. I'm going to bring that right into the middle of this. As you can see, it's marked by center. Obviously, that's a bit too big of bezels. Nobody would buy a laptop with that big of bezels. So let's... wrong thing. Let's grab this, center it up. We've got to play with it a little bit, see how it is. In all honesty, I have to make it a bit wider because we want even bezels all the way around. If it's the same ratio, then we won't have even bezels on the side as we do up top. So that looks decent, right? And now let's just pick a background color for our screen. Background color for the screen, make sure you have this inner selected. It doesn't matter if you have it selected like that or just like this. Double tap. Huh. This is a nice blue we got going on. Let's make it blue. And then we still have the roundness up here. But as we know, screens aren't really this rounded out. So moving this will, as you can see, adjust every corner. And we'll get into just adjusting one or two corners in a bit, but we're going to sharpen that out a little bit. How does that look? Let's do a little bit more. Let's make it down to 2.48. I like that. And I don't know, it may be a little bit off with the bezels and whatnot, but that's what we're going to play with for right now. So right now let's make the base. We're going to do the same thing as we did before. I'm going to use the rectangle tool, not the rounded one, just because it makes my life a little bit easier. Extend it a little bit further because although in reality it's the same exact width, right here is closer, so it's going to look larger, obviously. I know you guys already know this stuff, but let me feel like I'm doing something. I know you guys are really, really smart anyway. Alright, so obviously we want this to be the same color as this right here. Well, I lied, that's not necessarily true. The inside bezels will probably be darker unless you have like a space gray as the outside of the actual computer. At least my computer is. So let's go ahead, we're going to make it a gray, but not the same exact gray. Maybe like a lighter gray like that. I lied, I don't like that. Let's make it a little bit darker than that. Let's make it real dark. And speaking of this, let's make this even darker because I don't really like it how it is. I'm going to make that this dark. And I'm going to come back over here, make it just a little bit lighter. This is just my nitpickiness. I know I don't have to go over everything, but I just want to show you my process of kind of how I created this thing. Alright, so with this, what we're going to do is scroll in just to make life a little bit easier. So we see these right here. We're going to double tap, and what we're going to do is, where is it? Unlock here? No. Alright, so we can just adjust it here. So, I lied. We have to unlock it, of course, and we can adjust it here because we want that round edge at the bottom. Let's start off with 10. Let's make this 10 over here as well. Kind of get out of there. Close, close. And that looks half decent. Maybe a little bit more of a curve, but we're not going to keep that there like that. I'm going to make it more of a curve just real quick. I don't need to explain it to you guys again because you already know how to do it. 15, 15. I think that looks a whole lot better. Yeah, that definitely looks a lot better than it just did. So, of course, this is the base. When this folds down, it'll close. I think it would be appropriate to stretch this out a little bit longer, recenter it. That looks better. In all honesty, we have curves up here and curves down here. What we don't really see on a MacBook, we don't see the curves. If we're looking at this angle, it's just going to be straight. So what we're going to do is come on to this, unlock as it is, and just kind of make it 0. Let's just turn it down to 0. So it looks like it's going straight into that. Exit out of there. And that looks more appropriate. That looks like the hinge is down here. It'll round out a little bit below. And there's normally a little bit of a bigger bezel at the bottom if you're counting the whole entire face of the screen. Now in order to have this little divot that we have right here, in order for you to put your thumb under this and open it up, we're going to select this, Control C, Control V. And I say that because every time I hit Control D, it doesn't work. See, I'm hitting it and it's just moving it to the right because Control D is normally duplicate, but let's just do Control C, Control V. I don't care to look into it because, you know, I found an alternative that works. We're going to hold down Shift because we want the same aspect ratio in this scenario. We're just going to make it as small. I lied. We don't want the same aspect ratio. We want it about half. Let's actually, before we throw it in there, make this black. It'll be 6 zeros. Let's throw this intersect in the middle. Let's see how that looks. That looks half decent. Maybe let's make this a little bit more rounded because, of course, that changed too. So let's make it 13. That's the max it can go to. Make it 13. Alright, now that we have this going, here's a little divot that you would put your thumb under. And I think that looks decent. It's centered along with this and along with this. And what do we want to have next? We want to kind of put that little line that I have up here because it just kind of gives it that little bit of a, kind of like a 3D effect. It's almost like there's light showing on it. And lining them up directly with this was in all honesty, kind of difficult. See, as you can see, it kind of leaks over into it a little bit. Allow me to... Uh-oh. It's not showing the whole entire thing. Let me make this go directly to here. Make sure it's a straight line across. And we have to select this. I'm going to make it like a, maybe like a straight white, just off of, just right around there. So a little bit of tint in there. I don't want it that thin, so let's make it a little bit thicker. That's too much. Let's make it a 3, see how that works. And as you can see, it kind of leaks over into that. That's too long. And that looks halfway decent. In all honesty, I'm just going to make this the entire length of the computer. And you'll see why in just a second. We're going to make it go all the way. Alright, so this looks halfway decent, right? Except this is in front. So what we're going to do is just come over to layers over here. Click on that. Let's put the drop down because this is everything. This is the line. This is a rectangle. So we're going to throw this rectangle, which is the little thumb part. You'll see in a second. It's going to come over top of the line. You see that? So it looks decent. It just gives it a little bit of effect, a little bit of 3D effect, you know? Just makes it look a little better. So let's incorporate it. And what else are we missing? So if we were to come over, let's create another line. We already have the line tool selected. And normally it says MacBook right here, but when it comes to the sign, it looks kind of cool to have the lines represent text. So if it says MacBook right inside here, let's throw a line. We'll center that in a bit. Let's make this, the MacBook is a silver. Let's make it kind of like a gray, of course. Okay. We're making it a little bit darker than this little glare. I may change that to full white, but for right now we're going to keep it as is. We're going to make this 5 point. Let's see how that looks once we scale it out. That's not what I wanted. So we have intersection in both. Centered, it looks just about centered within this. I like it a little bit above. That looks decent, but 5 is a bit too much. Let's make a 4. In all honesty, I don't even like the 4 either. Let's go ahead and just throw it back down to 2. See how that looks. Let's make it 3. Alright, 3 looks halfway decent. That's going to be the MacBook Pro writing. I like it now. Alright, so now that we have the basic computer, I am going to add in a little bit of detail. So let's just throw in the dock, for example. I'm going to come up to rectangle. We're going to throw in a dock. I'm not going to throw in each and every component of the dock, but it'll look good enough. So we're going to have to round these out separately. They're unlocked already. Oh, so used to hitting the bottom one. Forget which one I'm trying to round out. So the dock is, let's make it a bit rounded to 6 a piece. Let's exit out of that. Let's just kind of scroll out, see how that looks. Looks halfway decent, right? So what we're also going to do is give this a color for the inside. We want to have it like a bright white kind of transparent color. So let's pick right there. I'm going to eliminate this. I'm going to just go ahead and make this 0. As you can see, it's 0, good to go. And with this I'm going to change the opacity where we get that transparent look. Let's bring it down to 50 just to kind of give ourselves a gauge. Way too much. Let's bring it back up to 70. Still too much. I'm going to make this a lighter. I'm going to make it all the way white. Because if we get the transparency, it'll make it look a little bit better. See, now the opacity at 70% isn't not enough. It's almost just right. It's very close. When we zoom out, this kind of overlaps that I don't really like. So we'll move this up just a smidge. And at a deep glance, you can't even tell that it's not touching it exactly. And by not touching, I'm talking about right here. So what else are we missing? We're missing a bar up top, like this bar up here. Except let's make it its traditional. Let's just take this, Control Z, Control V. Let's throw this up top. It's kind of aligned there. I'm going to make it similar. And as you can see, I can make it any degree angle I want. But if I were to hold Shift down, it'll go from, you see how it keeps straight? Or it'll go to a 45 degree or a 90 degree, or it'll just keep turning around. But these are the increments. If I take off Shift, I can go at any angle I want. So that just kind of helps you stay exactly straight at a 0 degree angle when you're trying to mess with this. And there is our bar up there. In order to make it a little bit easier to see, I can change this color to kind of like a darker grayish, you know, blackish blue. See, now it looks a little bit better. I actually like that background a lot better. The bright doesn't really gain my attention. I kind of like a more so faded almost looking color, like this color. I like it a lot. And of course, when you scroll out, it almost looks like this bar is drooping onto the bezels out of the screen. But when you come all the way in, Well, looks like this one kind of is. So let's go ahead and change that. Alright, so if you notice that I kind of went away a second ago, that's because my camera cut off, but obviously I'm just speeding through the parts that are kind of repetitive or I'm not talking. But let me just go ahead, I'm going to save this because we just made the basic computer. We have the dock, we have this up here. If you want to add little icons up here, that's fine too. And we just have the basic computer layout. Let me go ahead and kind of talk you through the other design that I showed you earlier in this video, kind of how I created that. Alright, so now that we're looking at the MacBook that I created before and within all this window and whatnot, as you can see, everything is just the same. I took this, I Control-C, Control-V in order to duplicate it, and then I just scaled it down into what this is now. And then I created another box, and this is what this tab is right here. As you can see, it's obviously a box because it has borders on it. And I don't know, I just kind of like that look a little bit more. It looked like this was over top of what's below here. And with this, it kind of looks like it's inset within. I was just showing you guys two different methods of what you can do. I made circles coming over here, right click, ellipse tool, and I can hit shift and I make a perfect circle. As you can see, it doesn't matter where I move my mouse, it makes a perfect circle. Boom, but I'm not going to make one right now. And I just made them the same colors as you would see on any MacBook Pro, a red, yellow, and green. And then I just made a bunch of lines. All of these are simply lines that I changed the color of. I just duplicated each and every one. So I Control-Z, Control-V, V, 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 and it just created a whole bunch of other ones. I selected a few, made them one color, selected these two, made them pink, selected all these, made them blue. And then I just kind of lined them up like it was indented like a normal text editor, like you'd be coding. And in order to create this over here, which I actually really like, I came over to layers. Let me click that again. And I came over here. Let me see which one's which. As you can see when I click on this is selected now. So we got to go down a little bit to here. So now we have this selected. And then I held down shift, click all of these. And now that I have all of these selected, I Control-C to copy it, Control-V to paste it. And here I have it right here. And then what I did was I made this up here, since all of them are still selected, make sure you keep them all selected for this whole process. I put them down to 2, and then I just kind of made them smaller, kind of like squished them a bit. So as you can see, this is what we're left at. I could kind of, let me just put that over here so it doesn't really confuse you. And that's kind of what I'm left at. Maybe this looks better than this, I don't know. Personal preference. But I just kind of squished it together to make it look like another text editor. Like I think Atom kind of squishes it up. I noticed Sublime Text 2, it kind of takes the code and squishes up here just to see. You may be within this viewing range, but over here it just shows all of your code. If you have a whole bunch, it shows more than just this window shows. Not necessarily readable code, but it just kind of shows you how long it is. It looks cool. Alright, so in order to get this glare right here, what I did was I just simply created a rectangle. And I changed this opacity to 10%. So now it looks a whole lot similar to this right here. And what I did was, of course, I turned this to the proper angle. Let's pretend that's the same exact angle that that's on. I lined it up right about there. I'm trying to line this up right there. And then I came over to this free transform tool. Click on it. And then as you can see, you can do free distort or perspective distort. Let's just kind of play with it. Let's do perspective. So obviously we don't want perspective because that changes it into a way that we don't. We want free distort. So we're going to come down. We're going to make this parallel with that. We're going to bring this all the way up to the top. Try to keep the same angle that we had before. And see, now we got to play with it a little bit. As you can see, I'm holding up here, but we're trying to make this parallel to one another. So let's click off of that, click off of that, and as you can see, we kind of need to change that a little bit. Let's come back, free distort. You can also come over here and do free transform too, and it'll change it just like this as well. Let's go ahead and go back, and so as you can see, perfectly glared. In order to create this other one, all I did was simply I clicked on this, copy V, or Control C, Control V, just made it smaller. You had to distort it a little bit as well, but you know, nothing you can't do on your own. And that's it. I'm going to delete this because I kind of like the way it looks right here. I'm going to save it. And that's kind of how you create the laptop, you create the glare, and you create this cool little text editor. Everything is just lines, rectangles, and circles. And then we round the edges, we free transform and use a direct transform tool, I think it's called, and just kind of mess with this until the glare, we have that polygon, that parallelogram that we really need. And then you just make a big circle in the background, make a line, just kind of make it look like it's sitting on a desk if you want to do that. And that's it. I mean, it's very, very easy to just dive in, especially if you have something else to look at. So with this video, you have this computer to look at, and you can just make it look any type you want. If you don't want it to resemble a MacBook, then it doesn't need to resemble a MacBook. It'd be a Dell XPS 15. If you don't want a text editor in yours, so you don't like the background, of course you can change that too. Alright guys, thank you for watching. That's it for Design of the Month. I do, however, have a few announcements. One being this design, as well as my other app designs, are available on my website that I am currently making. So once it's complete, which should be within a week or two, that will be down in the link below if you wish to get these designs and kind of play around with it, change it to your liking instead of making it from scratch. That's really convenient for the app designs because you don't want to necessarily create a whole app design by scratch yourself. It's nice to have that essentially like a UI kit and play around with it, just adjust that because it's easier to have a template than start from scratch. Also, I got accepted into Merch by Amazon. So I have a few designs, including this one that we just created here, for sale on the t-shirts on my Merch by Amazon account. So I will have that linked down in the description box as well once I have everything uploaded over there. And I really hope you guys enjoy it. And if you wish to support the channel, go ahead and purchase that. If you wish to purchase it just because you like it, I'm okay with that too. Or if you don't want to purchase it at all and just want to keep watching my videos, that's fine too. Don't feel pressured to purchase. It's just something that'll help put money back into the channel in order to allow me to create more videos. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, have a good one.